Hey, welcome into the Big Ten Huddle. We have got a lot going on in the Big Ten. We just had a game that happened, and I'm sure Penn State fans are feeling pretty good about what happened. They might still be partying, but our friend Shap's here. I'm convinced he's never going to come on the podcast again because this marks the second time that he's come on, and an Illinois loss happened right before that. So we're going to get into that here in just a moment, but new person on the podcast, newcomer Jackson of the Jacksonian is with us tonight. Jackson covers all things college sports, other sports. You do like anime and stuff like that on your channel too, correct, Jackson?
I haven't yet, but I'll probably have someone that talks about anime or cartoons and all that sort of stuff eventually.
There we go. So a jack of all traits is the best way to describe you, I'm sure. So Shaps, I think I know how you're doing tonight, but Jackson, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing pretty good, and gents, I am sorry that Penn State's causing you guys nightmares. I am so sorry about that.
That's what we were talking about before, is that, Illinois blew a 14-point lead, but Ohio State blew an 18-point lead against Penn State earlier in the season. So Penn State, apparently that's their trick of how to win these games, is get down by nearly 20 points, double digits, and then just come back. So all right, we got Sonny here with us. You're not the only Illinois fan.
What's up,
Shaps,
man?
I'm so glad you're
Thanks,
doing the
Sonny.
show tonight. Not me.
Honey, I'm sorry that Illinois lost on you tonight, but I got a feeling that Penn State somewhere out there is playing Lion King music right now. I don't know why, but they just are.
Well, let's just go ahead and get right into the game since we got a lot to talk about. Shaps, we'll give you the floor. Illinois falls 89-90 to Penn State on the road, blowing a 14-point lead. I would ask, what are your thoughts? But just, I guess, air it out. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I had notes prepared from the first half, and thought we were in a pretty good spot, considering we were up by 7, I think, with about 40 seconds left. And then I just crossed off all my notes because it's kind of pointless to look back at the first half now. That was unbelievable. Yeah, I couldn't believe what I was witnessing. I started helping out with bedtime stuff, so it might have been my fault, helping, like, kind of giving up on the game. I switched from the big TV to the phone so I could go upstairs and help out with the kiddos. And maybe that was what did us in. So I'll take the blame for that. No blame should go on Coleman Hawkins for missing back-to-back layups that would have put the game away, and then on the ensuing possession, fouling a 3-point shooter. No blame goes on Brad Underwood for not designing an inbounds play and using up all of our timeouts, or having the wrong guys on the floor, or continuously having Marcus Damask bring the ball up with Ace Baldwin guarding him, and just constantly turning the ball over. Anybody else could have brought the ball up the floor, anyone that wasn't being guarded by Ace Baldwin, and we probably would have won by 20. But we let them hang around. And this is what we tend to do with teams. We get a comfortable lead, and then we just get complacent and we stop running any sort of offense at all. It's very bizarre, and it just doesn't give Illinois fans a lot of confidence about March, because we've seen this multiple times now. And it's easy to explain, but it's also so many things have to go wrong for these to lose these types of games, where you just make one or two tiny corrections and you're easily walking away with a win. I feel bad for Terrence Shannon. He had a career high in scoring with 35 points, double-double. He just had absolutely no help. Damask had an all right game, but it was really the complementary pieces that were just non-existent. So yeah, a lot of things had to go wrong, and they all went wrong in a span of 1 minute. And that was difficult to watch. I guess it's hard to win on the road in the Big Ten. You can say that. You can say that anytime your team loses in heartbreak fashion.
Right.
Oh, well, it's really hard to lose on the road. It's hard to win on the road.
Well, you guys can't play like that in March, because I'm gonna tell you right now, there's gonna be some Cinderella team like, say, Grand Canyon. They're gonna chew you up like a chicken nugget if you pull that sort of stuff. I mean,
We've already, the Javamen have already declared that we're going to be playing Indiana State in the second round, most likely, and it'll be just flashbacks to a certain team from a couple of years ago that we don't talk about.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, fully expecting another heartbreak for sure.
Well, at least it's not Fairleigh Dick. Feel better, okay? All right.
Well, on the bright side, Illinois beats Fairleigh Dickinson, and Purdue doesn't. So you can only say that they do beat Fairleigh Dickinson.
We got that going for us. The rum is making me feel a little better too.
There we go. Yeah, put the kids to bed, break out the rum. There you go. That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Jackson, you have not been hurt substantially by Penn State so far this season that I know of. So your thoughts on the game, and do you have any thoughts on this Penn State team who was without their leading scorer in Kanye Clary, who has been dismissed from the team for unknown reasons? There's fan speculation, and if we want to get into that, we can. However, this is also just kind of a huge win for Penn State. So I don't know how much Penn State fans are thinking about Kanye Clary. They're probably thinking about Zach Hicks and Nick Kearns and Ace Baldwin and all these guys that had a great game. What do you think, Jackson?
I got to say, I was impressed that this is the 5th time this season that Penn State made a double-digit comeback. I mean, the first time, this second only to the 18-point deficit against Ohio State in December. And I would not be surprised come conference tournament time, we see Penn State advancing to the semifinals because of games like tonight and games like what we saw earlier this year, again, especially against the Buckeyes and a few other opponents that Penn State played.
Yeah, no, for sure. I could see it happening as well. Ohio State kind of had that little bit of a magical run last year where they won 3 games in the Big Ten tournament and ultimately just ran out of gas because it's really hard to win 5 games in a row in the Big Ten tournament back to back days. But I mean, Penn State, they certainly have that kind of ability. And when you have somebody with like Ace Baldwin, who, I mean, literally anytime the ball is around him, he apparently is just able to snatch it. I don't know what Penn State is doing out there with their guards and like their cornerbacks, because they have really good cornerbacks in football too. But like every guard apparently needs to go to Penn State for a little bit and figure out the ball hocking skills of
and
what
just
James Franklin
and just play against Illinois and Brad Underwood, because whatever it is, we bring out the best in Penn State guards. They beat us 3 times last year. I think this is our only matchup against them this year. And it happens again. Doesn't matter that they don't have their leading scorer apparently, because Nick Kern just comes out of nowhere and has his career high, which we see time and time again with this Illinois defense. We seem to just bring out the best in opposing guards and opposing big men a lot of times too, with Wahab scoring what did he have in the first half? Like, he had double-digit points, I think, in the first half. He averages 8 points a game. Yeah, Nick Kern, again, averages 8 points a game, and he scores 20 in the second half against us. Maybe because he's a St. Louis native, too. He wanted some revenge. But, I don't know what it is about Penn State, but we can't seem to figure them out, and we don't ever change anything that we're doing defensively to give different looks, to make things more difficult. And Coleman Hawkins is kind of the captain of the defense, and he just had one of his typical like space cadet games tonight, which was really unfortunate. He's been getting a lot of publicity lately. His Twitter game is quite strong, but maybe he should worry a little bit less about Twitter and the refs and get his ass back on defense a little bit more, instead of crying for calls. And maybe we win that game, because that was a truly epic collapse by him at the end.
Well, and like I look at the game, and Illinois was up by 7, right? With 40 seconds left. I mean, Illinois did what you were supposed to do throughout the game to win the game. It just so happened at the end, Brad Underwood, apparently his only inbound play is to Marcus Domask to set a pick for Terrence Shannon Jr. And then the defenders switch, and then both of them stand there and don't know what to do with themselves. You're kidding? Are you kidding me? Brad Underwood, that's your inbound play when you have one timeout left that you cannot afford to not use, when you cannot afford to use because you need it for later on in the game. Because let's be honest, if they threw the ball up there, they could have called a timeout, had 3 seconds left, probably got a better shot than what Justin Harmon got there at the end of the game. Now, I don't think Justin Harmon got a bad shot. He did fairly well at the end of the game to get that shot, but that matters. And instead of doing that, Marcus Domask ran to the exact corner that you're not supposed to go to, caught the ball, and had to call a timeout because there was literally no way he was going to get out of that. So, I mean, Illinois won the game until 40 seconds was left in this game. They did enough to win this game. Defense wasn't great, but defense did enough to win. Offense was fantastic. Terrence Shannon Jr., 35 points, 11 rebounds. I mean, he was out of his mind in this game. But it just so happened that the guy you needed to score the final points to win it all was Coleman Hawkins and not Terrence Shannon Jr. So I guess that's my thing, Shaps, is going forward, because obviously Illinois is going to make the tournament and Illinois is going to, be there and be a March team. Going forward, are you more concerned with some of these coaching decisions by Brad Underwood, the defense, the offense? I mean, what is your big concern? Because my concern going into it was the defense, but then now I'm looking at it and I'm like, I don't know. Maybe it's guys not being able to finish the game. Maybe it's Brad Underwood's decision making. I don't know. What do you think?
No, there's only one concern going into March, and it's been the same concern for the past few years. It's Brad Underwood and his decision-making and his lack of in-game adjustments. He is an elite program builder, amazing recruiter, and a very bad in-game coach. And it has cost us many, many times. He makes adjustments in between games, but not during games. And when you're playing in March in a single elimination format, you cannot afford to wait until the next game. You lose and you're done. And typically we lose because he does not make any adjustments to what he's seeing on the court. Something as simple as having anyone else bring the ball up the court other than Marcus Domask being guarded by one of the best defenders in the Big Ten. That's just a very, very simple change. Maybe not having the shortest guy on the court in Justin Harmon inbounding the ball all the time. So it's just little things like that we're watching the game and we're screaming and it's so obvious to make, but he just doesn't do it. And then he'll do it in the next game though. He'll fix it. But it's just dumbfounding why he can't make that change during the game. It's like he's just a spectator on the sideline, and that is the biggest concern. The defense is a disaster right now, and he hasn't changed really one thing about it. They just continuously do the drop coverage. And our stats guy, Java Jubes, shared a graphic today from one of those, I can't remember, the CBB analytics guys or something, but it showed the teams that are the best usage of floaters and leaners in the lane. And if you look at the top row of teams that are all really good at it, it's all teams that have beaten Illinois.
Right.
because we run the drop coverage and we don't ever change it. So if you're facing a good guard, we just get killed. So again, the biggest concern, and it will always be the biggest concern, and really the only thing that holds this team back from March success is unfortunately the coach.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at the shot chart for Penn State, and I mean, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I mean, there's at least 6 shots here that happened right around the top of the key or right outside of the key. And I mean, those are the kind of floater shots, and those are kind of some of those mid-range shots that you're talking about that, maybe they're not as good as layups, but you can't be having those. And that's what Ohio State did to beat Purdue, is because Zach Ease kept dropping back so far, is that they just kind of kept taking those shots. And yeah, when Illinois plays that drop coverage against pick and roll, I mean, the teams are going to take what they take, and Penn State has competent enough guards. I mean, I actually think they have pretty good guards to be able to make those plays. So Jackson, I'll give you the last word on this before we move on to the next game. But you've watched Illinois this season, time here and there. I know you don't watch them maybe as much as some other people do, but I mean, what's your concern with this team right now? Do you think it's fixable? Do you think this is something where Illinois, they just need to be worried, or what do you think, Jackson?
Well, I think they're going to have to be really worried. They got to fix all their mistakes, and it's like Shap said, it's the end game. It's the end game adjustments. He's not really good at the end games, but maybe he can get better at it this year. Maybe he could learn from the mistakes of some of the past games this season and past losses from the past few years. But I guess we'll wait and see.
Yeah. Interesting for sure. Got Dr. Spin here. Talk to me about getting a 5 seed instead of
you're in trouble if you're a 5 seed.
Especially this year.
We're in trouble if we're a 4 seed, I think. Basically, we just wanted to avoid that line, and we had a path for a 3 seed. It was certainly there. Not anymore. Unless other teams really falter that are around us. But
which could happen. I mean,
it could happen. The only and we have games at Wisconsin, which suddenly isn't that good, and against Purdue remaining. But outside of that, we don't have any other opportunities. You would basically have to win out now to even have a chance. But I don't even think we would do that. Maybe if we won the Big Ten tournament, like, we could probably get a 3 seed. But other teams that are around us, in the net, just have a much, much better record against Quad 1, just way more better wins, like Creighton just did. So it's more likely a 4, or if we falter again, it's going to be 5 and 5. Yeah, we would be a very popular 12 over 5 pick, I think.
Or even the second round, the 5 plays the 4 in the second round, right? So I mean, you face a 4 seed there, and it's just not a desirable place to be. 3 is a much more desirable, because you get kind of those smaller schools that win, and you're exactly right, Dr. Spin. 5 seed is death. I mean, you see it time and time again where they fall and get upset there. So we will see. Obviously, not a fun night for Illinois fans, but like you said, Chaps, there's always a chance of other people faltering. And I mean, the way college basketball goes, nobody, like, everybody says, "Oh, well, if we just win out," and it's like nobody ever wins out. So.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, we're obviously down right now and emotional from the immediate aftermath of a horrible loss. But we all know, the Javamen know, Illinois fans know, all that matters is March for this year. That's when Brad is going to be judged. And if it's just a repeat of history, then the squad is going to be, the firing squad is going to be, heading to the armory and loading up for the weapons and possibly doing some damage in this offseason.
So in your mind then, Shaps, just you personally, I don't mean to ask you to speak for all of Illini Nation, but for you personally, what does a successful March look like? Like, what round do they have to get to? 16, 8, Final Four? What do you think?
It's really simple. They have to get to the second weekend. That's it. That's it. It's really all that matters. If he loses in the first or second round, it's going to be hell amongst Illinois fans.
Wow. Big stakes.
This is the team. This is the team. And if he doesn't get it done, it's going to be on his shoulders for sure, because this is a veteran team. Last year, if we want to call it, an outlier, he took some gambles with a younger team, didn't work out. Okay. But now he went the complete opposite direction and loaded up in the portal with seniors. So if he doesn't get it done this year, it's just going to continue to haunt him. I'm not saying we're going to fire him. We're not.
Right.
But the pressure will be mounting.
Right.
So basically, he would be kind of like Sean Miller, Matt Painter, and Tony Bennett, guys who do well in the regular season, but don't do so hot in March.
No, because those guys have all had success in March.
I'd say Tony Bennett won the national championship.
Tony Bennett won a national championship. Matt Painter's been to multiple Sweet 16s and Elite 8s. Did he go to a Final Four?
No.
Purdue
hasn't been to the Final Four since 1980, I believe.
Yeah. No, and Sean, Slime Miller is like our number one wanted man if we were ever to get rid of Brad Underwood, but Ohio State's probably going to hire him. So,
well, I mean, if you're hoping to go to the Final Four, you're not going to get there with Sean Miller.
See, Dr. Spin is the number one Slime Miller fan, and he's calling it out right now. We want Slime. That's the only guy probably that we would trade Brad Underwood for. That's like available.
There we go. Give me Slime Miller. Well, hey, you guys take Sean Miller. We'll take Wes Miller, and then we'll just have the Miller brothers. And then Indiana can hire Archie Miller back.
There you go. Yes.
Or get Dusty May from Florida Atlantic. That's a good one.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. He would be a good hire. I want IU to hire Archie Miller back, so that way I don't have to worry about him. Because past couple seasons, I was actually kind of worried about IU. This season, I'm like, okay, Mike Woodson, keep it up.
Oh God, yeah. I saw the rumor too about Bruce Pearl to Indiana. Did you see that one?
Oh yeah, I saw that.
Which, oh my God, that would be such a psychotic move by Indiana. Like after what they went through with Kelvin Sampson, to just bring in Bruce Pearl would be just an insane move.
Dr. Spin's asking who will the Buckeyes hire. So the Buckeyes in a weird situation. Their new their new athletic director doesn't get there till March, and he's going to be the one doing the hiring. So we don't really have any like rumblings of what's going on right now. Insiders don't really know. Nobody around the program knows, but the suspicion is that he is going to go after Greg McDermott, Wes Miller, Archie Miller, Lamont Paris, and Dusty May. Those are his supposed guys. But like I said, nobody really knows because he's not at Ohio State right now. When he gets there in March, he will be, but we'll see. So we'll talk more Ohio State later on. Who knows? They might hire Jake Diebler. He keeps winning like that. All right. Well, Shaps, no worries. You lost on the road, but Michigan State had a hard time because they lost at home. And I saw some Michigan State fans going through it a little bit in this one. I don't know if I have the same take that every Michigan State fan does. Obviously, Michigan State fans know their team the best, but I'm curious to get you guys' take before I give mine. Jackson, what were your thoughts on this game? And do you think that Michigan State fans should be hitting the panic button after a loss at home to Iowa?
Oh, if I'm Michigan State, I'm panicking. I mean, I'm looking at the rest of the schedule. They got Ohio State on Sunday on CBS. Then they got to go to Purdue next Saturday night. Then there's Northwestern. And then they got to go to Bloomington, Indiana on the 10th on CBS. So, I mean, there's not a lot of games left to where they can get that big win. But if you can beat Purdue at home, that can help you. but I doubt you're going to have problems getting in unless you lose out because you're Michigan State. If you were some other team like an Ole Miss or a Northwestern or say San Francisco, Wake Forest,
Yeah.
you're screwed. But you're Michigan State. You haven't missed March Madness since 1996-97 in Tom Izzo's second year. I think you're fine.
I like Dr. Spin in the chat. Imagine getting Fran at yeah, this game was the last time that Fran and that referee had their stare off. I think it was in the Big Ten tournament. So we were having recollection of that. That was fun to think about. No, I agree, Jackson. This is a tough stretch here at the end. Ohio State is playing better ball after they beat Purdue. We'll see what they do against Minnesota, but on the road against Purdue, I mean, nobody has won there this season, and I don't see anybody going to win there this season, especially, I mean, the only thing I can think of Michigan State has is like they have 4 big men, so they can just keep throwing guys at Zach Edey until, maybe Zach Edey bleeds so much he can't play anymore in the game. I feel like that's maybe their only hope. But they do have guards who can play, so who knows? But I don't have much hope for Michigan State there. And then you're right, Northwestern, even though that's at home, you get into the boo zone and be concerned there. And then at IU, it's never easy going to Assembly Hall. So, Shaps, your thoughts on Michigan State getting Fran at home?
Yeah, I have this game when I turn on Michigan State games. I always try to tune in right at the beginning because I play the how fast can Matty Sissoko pick up 2 fouls game.
Yes.
This time it took 2 minutes and 18 seconds. In this game, absolutely incredible performance by Matty. Now, it's the same story all season long. The fact that Izzo did not get a better big in the portal is just insane, that he thought he could just run it back with the exact same guys. I don't get the Cohen Carr thing. He played 2 minutes in this game. Every time I see Cohen Carr on the court, like something good is happening.
Right. He wasn't bad.
He just doesn't play. I don't,
Yeah.
I must be like, I'm not, dialed in on Michigan State. I don't watch every minute, but I truly don't understand why he doesn't play. Iowa was playing most of this game without Owen Freeman too, which was also crazy. And just making this worse, this loss so much worse. Izzo said after the game that the team was just too tired, that they, didn't have their legs. That's what he said in the post game. What a lame excuse from Izzo. They played Saturday. Okay. Like Saturday, Tuesday, that's a quick turn, right?
Yeah.
But they played down the street in Ann Arbor against a team that doesn't even want to, continue the season basically. Right. Iowa also played Saturday and they went to overtime with Wisconsin. So really, really lame excuse from Izzo. And I did want to bring up this stat from Jay Kuda. He's a great follow on Twitter, Jay Kuda, and our buddy Casual Big Ten will love this stat as well. Steven Izzo has 4 rebounds in 11 minutes this season. That averages out to 14.5 rebounds per 40 minutes. So if he played every game, all game, he would lead the nation in rebounding. So,
wow.
The answer to Michigan State's front court problems are sitting right there, on the bench, probably in the same household as Izzo, and he doesn't seem to see it. So that's just another stain on his fading reputation here down the stretch of his career.
Yeah, it's almost like when you grew up playing sports, the coach's kid always got like the special treatment. It's almost like Tom Izzo is like, I will never give my child special treatment. He will never play in these games.
He's the answer.
Yeah, exactly. Like, come on, Tom, believe in your boy. So I saw some people, and I'm far from me to tell Michigan State fans what to believe. They obviously know their team far better than I do, but I saw them going after AJ Hoggard quite a bit in this one. And like, yes, not everything AJ Hoggard was, nice to watch in this game. He is kind of hard to watch at times, but he still had 15 points, 3 rebounds, and 4 assists. Shot 50% from the field, made both his free throws. Like, to me, if you're going after anybody in this game, it's the big men and Tom Izzo for refusing to play small ball. At no point in time did Tom Izzo go to a small ball lineup in this game. Iowa did not have Owen Freeman and for a large amount of this game, and they started going to this 2-3 zone where it's like, okay, go to small ball. Play them, spread them out in this one, and you're going to start hitting threes. You're going to start making shots, but they never did. And I am baffled that Tom Izzo at the end of last season finally discovered small ball, and Michigan State was able to make a run in the tournament because of them playing small ball. And then now again in this game where Iowa is missing their freshman, superstar big man for most of the game, and he just refuses to go to small ball. It's not like Owen Freeman was in there just like dominating the entire game. Like, if there was ever a time to go to the small ball lineup, it was in this game against Iowa, who is not the most physical team in the world. Not going to call them soft, but that's just, they're not a super physical team. It's not like playing, Rutgers or something like that, But at the end of the day, like, Michigan State, at some point, Tom Izzo has to look at his big men and just sit them all on the bench and say, none of you guys are playing until you actually give me production, because their 4 big men played a combine of 42 minutes in this game, and they had 7 points and 10 rebounds. 7 points and 10 rebounds between 4 big men who played 42 minutes. Like, I am baffled.
There was a hilarious the sequence that towards the end of this game was so funny too. I had to write it down because Cooper misses like that wide open pass, like it was kind of like a shovel pass, and he just wasn't ready for it at all. They take him out for defense, and they do go small, but all of a sudden you got Malik Hall as like your big guy on the court, and Owen Freeman was back in the game. They threw that lob pass just over Malik's head. Owen Freeman scores easily, and that was basically the end of the game.
Yeah. No,
and I'm looking at
can't win.
Well, I'm looking at Iowa's rest of the schedule, and sorry to bring this up, Shaps. They got Illinois twice for the rest of the season, but they got Penn State coming to their backyard. Then they got to go to Northwestern's backyard and go deal with Boo Booey on the Big Ten Network. So that's going to be a big one. But I don't think Iowa's. I don't think they're in. Unfortunately, they're going to have a big run in the Big Ten tournament. They may just have to be a bid stealer in the Big Ten tournament to get in.
Yeah, no, and that was my next part I was going to go to. Thank you, Jackson. Is that, like, even though Tom Izzo failed to realize that none of his big men could actually play, I mean, Fran McCaffrey's guys played hard the entire game, and Peyton Sanford is the real deal, able to make the plays that he makes. And I don't personally think that Iowa has a chance to make the NCAA tournament. You have Illinois on the schedule twice, once at home, once on the road. You're also going to Northwestern. And then you have Penn State, which is just a total wild card. Penn State can literally beat anybody at any night, it seems like. And yes, you have them at home, but
especially when they're trailing by double digits.
Yeah, don't get up by double digits in this game, Iowa. You'll start getting in trouble. But yeah, I as much as I do like this Iowa team, and they are younger, and I think they have a bright future, I can't see them winning all 4 of these final games and then making a run in the Big Ten tournament. Can you see it, Shaps?
Be pretty tough given the schedule, and just like, again, it just comes down to opportunities and resumes, and there's just not a lot of opportunities in the Big Ten to get really good wins.
Right.
So unless they beat Illinois a couple times, which is certainly possible. We play them in March, so we tend to struggle in March.
That's true. I mean, that's truly you play him in March.
Yeah, that's why the
I mean,
calendar goes Braduary, February, Izzo.
Yeah. Yeah, Chris Holtman always struggled in January. Foxy here saying Tom never uses his timeouts to change the flow or stop opponents' run until last 30 seconds in the half. Yes. Yeah, that was another thing I noticed that Tom Izzo, he kind of does what Mike Woodson does a little bit, where he just kind of leaves his guys out there sometimes and he's just like, figure it out, which early on in the season, I like that because I feel like you kind of get from your guys like who they are and kind of discover like what can you do. But I'm not really a fan of doing that in late February. Like you should know who you have right now, and you should know, oh, this other team's going on a run. Matty Sissoko's in there or whoever else is in there, and I should get them out of the game because they're not going to respond well. I need solid rebounding, so I'm going to put, Carson Cooper in there or somebody like that. Like I need somebody who has the ability to score down in the paint, so I'm going to put Jackson Kohler in there or something like that. But I don't know. I don't get Tom Izzo right now. Far from me to tell Tom Izzo what to do. Obviously, he's been much more successful than I am. But if he gets anything after watching this episode, play Steven Izzo. That's the message from the Big Ten Huddle for Tom Izzo. All right, guys.
You think how long is he gonna have at Michigan State? Do you think the last few years at Michigan State are similar to the last few years of the Boeheim era at Syracuse?
I don't know. I don't think it's been as bad as it was for Boeheim there at the end. And I can't imagine Tom leaves or Michigan State asks him to leave while he still has this tournament streak going. But I could see I think it's much more likely that Tom leaves on his own. Tom Izzo leaves on his own rather than Michigan State asking him to leave or anything like that. I don't think I could see that happening. Could you, Sheps?
Yeah, I think it's his job, obviously, as long as he wants it. We'll see if he does the Coach K farewell tour or the Nick Saban just go,
Out of the blue.
Yeah, out of the blue, which I know he's buddies with Saban, so perhaps.
And it's like, which one of those is better for your team, right? Because like, if I'm the team, I kind of like that Saban didn't make the last season by himself, but at the same time, when Saban just like left, it just like, opened up the entire portal to just feast on your team. And like, if Tom Izzo does that, then like that doesn't help Michigan State. Well, maybe some Michigan State fans want the portal to go after their team the way they talk about some of their guys, but yeah. So, Dave says, what's your prediction for the Gophers versus Ohio State game? That will be going to first time. Yeah, we'll get to that one last. So that's on our schedule last, Dave. So we're going to get to Maryland, Wisconsin first. Wisconsin defeats Maryland 74-70. This was a pretty interesting game. Maryland made some comebacks here and there, but it never really seemed like they could get ahead because Wisconsin just kind of kept taking over, and Chucky Hepburn was playing some really solid defense, and Jameer Young was doing everything he could. But I mean, at the end of the day, Wisconsin's defense just really, really held off Maryland and was able to keep them at bay. I don't know if this means that Wisconsin is back. I was impressed with what I saw from Wisconsin, but this also wasn't Wisconsin scoring 80 points like we've seen them do this season. So good defense, but not really the high power offense that we've seen from them this year. But Shaps, I'm curious your thoughts on the game.
Yeah, it was kind of a weird game for sure because during this stretch of struggles for Wisconsin, their defense had been horrible, and actually their defense was okay in this game, but their offense was kind of letting them down a bit. I have to point out also, I listened to most of this game on mute because I can't stand Jack Collinsworth.
Yes.
He certainly didn't get the job on talent or merit. I don't know what it is about his audio too. It's like, it always sounds like he's calling a game from like a space station or something. And I don't know why that is. So listen to it on mute. I was also watching the Creighton UConn game too, but
oh yeah.
Yeah, a weird game. I don't understand what's happened to Max Klesmit. If you look back when they were dominating in January, he was scoring 15, 20 points seemingly like every game. Maybe defensive has adjusted to him, but like if you just look at their recent games, I think a huge reason is because of Max Klesmit struggling, and that forces Chucky to carry more of the load offensively. And if you look at the recent games like that they've lost in, Chucky is scoring above his average. Where if you look at those games in January, he was scoring like 4 points, 6 points a game, and just facilitating and focusing on the defensive end. And Klesmit, his stat line is really deceiving in this game. Too. He scored more than half of his points in the final minute of the game. He did hit that big three, that dagger three, but before that he was and then he just had a bunch of free throws really at the end. So very deceiving stat line for them. Maryland is still really hard to figure out as well. Again, they play their best games against Illinois, and I don't know why. Probably because they have a really good guard and a really good big. But I was just happy that Willard was actually fouling at the end of the game. I thought that was a huge step in the right direction from when against Illinois he just refused to foul and let the clock nearly run out. So maybe that's baby steps for Willard, and he did just get a 5-star recruit in the door. So, the turtle heads don't have to go into their shells quite yet. They kind of poked their head out a little bit when that 5-star announcement came in today.
Yeah, they were real happy. In Slack, they were saying, watch out for him next year, which I could have sworn maybe they were saying that when they got Harris Smith last year, but that's neither here nor there.
They're ready. They were ready to fire Willard into the sun, the day before, but then he brings in the 5-star and they're like, look out.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, if Maryland has another bad year like they're having this year, okay, talk about firing Kevin Willard. But firing Kevin Willard right now, I mean, that's basically throwing the baby out with the bathwater. I mean, you don't fire someone after their second year. That's a no-no, unless it's something really bad.
Well, and to his credit, like he's got the recruits, right? Like I kind of went on last episode and was talking about, it wasn't all that great at Seton Hall, and he kind of did Seton Hall a favor leaving there, going to Maryland because Seton Hall was getting what's his name, Holloway or Shaheem
St. Peter's.
Yeah, the St. Peter's guy. So he helped him out there, but at the end of the day, like Willard has not been anything spectacular as an in-game coach. As we kind of talked about with Brad earlier, but he has been able to get the guys and to get the good recruits in there. So I think Jameer Young does far more than what some people realize. Dave has a good point here. Wisconsin scoring 80 points was something you didn't hear in the late 90s, early 2000s. Usually it took them 3 or 4 games to score 80, and they would still lose those games. No, I agree. And that's the thing. Like you saw Wisconsin finally this season be able to combine good defense with strong offense. And one of the reasons why, and I said this early on in the season, is that Wisconsin was actually putting their guys in the correct roles. You were making Chucky Hepburn be the role that fits him, which is a distributor, somebody who plays good defense and can get you a bucket from time to time, but he's not your primary scorer. Without Max Klesmit, to your credit, like you said, Chaps, like without Max Klesmit doing what he has been doing all season long, Chucky Hepburn has to start being more of a scorer, which is what got him in trouble a little bit last year because he got out of the zone. Now Chucky Hepburn is able to do it. He's a talented player. I think he's probably one of the more underrated guards in the Big Ten, but he's at his best when he's playing his role and he doesn't have to be, the scorer or the hero or whatever it might be, because at the end of the day, like you said, Shaps, like Max Klesmit wasn't anything special in this game. He had 8 free throws. Awesome. But at the end of the day, like most of those were in garbage time when Maryland was just chucking up 3-pointers and hitting them, so then they had just kind of keep shooting free throws. So So it's definitely concerning, but I think this is a good game for Wisconsin. We'll see if they can build off of it. Maryland is a good defensive team, so give them the credit there. So scoring 80 on them is difficult, but at the end of the day, like if Wisconsin wants to be the team that people thought they might be in March, Max Klesman has to be that guy again. So
Ooh, they're not looking so good for March right now. Wisconsin, I mean, they lost 5 out of their last 7 games. That is not good. You can't be playing like that in the Big Ten tournament or March Madness. And
right. Yeah. I mean, in their last 4 are, I mean, they have some games in there they can win, but they're not cupcakes. I mean, at Indiana, Illinois, Rutgers, at Purdue. And Rutgers is a better team than people give them credit for with Jeremiah Williams back. So that's not an easy game to win there. So yes, Etch, I was seeing your stuff, but I wanted to continue the conversation, finish off Wisconsin. It's Brad Underwood, elite program builder, but bad in-game coach. Also, Undy gets Jimmy's and Joe's, but can't put the X's and O's. The only conclusion is that Undy is an elite program builder, but bad in-game coach. Yes, we were talking about that earlier in the episode, and I think that's exactly how you feel, right, Sheps?
Yeah, exactly. Perfectly said.
Yeah. So if you go back and listen to all of Shep's thoughts there at the beginning of the episode, we covered that quite a bit.
Let's move on.
So, yeah. All right. Rutgers and Purdue is coming up tomorrow night. So I don't think this is really a question of who's going to win this game. I think Purdue should be able to take care of this game. They did play at Rutgers early on in the season. Rutgers gave them a good game. I think it was an 8-point game. So Purdue did end up winning that game, obviously. However, with Purdue's performance that they had against Ohio State and the defense that Rutgers has, if you look down there, you can see Rutgers is 275th in adjusted offensive efficiency, but they're second in defense, and Purdue is second in offense, adjusted offensive efficiency, but 20th in defense. So this is a good situation where we are going to figure out with Purdue, can they fix some of the offensive struggles that they had against Ohio State, which were Zach Edey turning the ball over, which is strange because we've seen Braden Smith turn it over and Fletcher Lawyer turn it over, and that was kind of the issues last year and what people were concerned about this year. But when you see Zach Edey turning it over, it's like, hold on a minute. Like, is this just a one game thing, or is this something that we have to start being concerned about where teams are going to figure out if we just poke the ball away from Edey before he gets it up over his head, then we have a chance. Jackson, do you feel the same way that you think Purdue pretty much has this game on lock, or are you kind of concerned for Purdue after the loss against Ohio State earlier?
Oh, if it was on the road, I'd be majorly concerned. But because it's a home game for Purdue, I think they'll be fine. I mean, just don't let your kids watch this game by themselves. That's all I can say. Like,
it's going to be an intense game for sure.
But mommy, why is that team beating up on this red team? Well, they're pretty mad at the red team. Let's go have cookies and ice cream.
They're mad the way they played against the other red team earlier in the week too. So, Sheps, I don't know how much you watched of the Ohio State Purdue game, but I'm sure you've heard about the issues and probably saw them a little bit. Do you think that Purdue corrects some of those issues in this game, or what are your thoughts?
No, they probably don't need to, really. Like the issues that Purdue runs into is basically just how the refs officiate the game. In my opinion, like there's not a whole lot you can do to slow down Purdue. Otherwise, like, you know, if they just struggle shooting from outside, sure. But it really, for the most part, just comes down to the officiating and is Edey making his free throws? Is he getting into foul trouble? Which I think he did, right, against Ohio State.
He had 2 fouls in the first half. Yeah. And he always acts like he's never fouled someone his entire life. You ever notice that too? Yeah.
Like, I turned the game on right when he picked up his second foul, and he just like slashed the guy across the arm, and then he couldn't believe that they called a foul on him when it was a very obvious call. I don't understand that, but no, I'm not concerned at all about Purdue. it's kind of the same situation where it's like just fast forward to March because that's really all that matters. We've seen Braden Smith last year and a few times this year just kind of struggle towards the end of games. And that's really probably the biggest question mark is how is Edey going to be officiated in March? And is Braden Smith going to be able to close out games when he's under pressure? Otherwise, they're kind of just coasting through and they're going to have some slip ups here and there. But with Illinois' loss tonight, Purdue is pretty much wrapped up, I think, the Big Ten regular season title. But I have enjoyed watching Rutgers lately, though. Jeremiah Williams is pretty electric. Former Illini, I should say. Former Illini Jeremiah Williams. You remember that story, JR?
No, I don't. What happened there with that one?
This offseason, he committed to Illinois. Transfer from Iowa State, I think. He committed to Illinois, and then I can't remember the exact series of events, but basically it came out that he was under investigation for gambling while he was at Iowa State. That spooked Illinois, so we moved on from him because we assumed he was going to sit out some amount of time. So he ends up at Rutgers and obviously sat out the first 20 games or whatever it was. But I'm shocked at how quickly he's just become the man for them. He is very, very smooth and skilled and just gives them such a boost that they have been missing. Somebody who can just go get their own shot and actually give Cliff some help on the offensive end. He's given them a lot of confidence. So you never know what can happen with him. I'm sure defenses will adjust now and figure him out and make things harder on him. But it's been fun to watch. We've always said, like we said earlier, Brad, great evaluator of talent. He gets the good players. AJ Storr as well, former Illini.
And that's funny because didn't Terrence Shannon Jr. commit to Michigan, but they had the same issue with Caleb Love, like the academics or whatever. So then Terrence Shannon Jr. went over to Illinois because he couldn't get into Michigan or something like that. So sounds like there's a lot of committing that then doesn't go through for stuff like that in the Big Ten, which is interesting. But no, I think it's funny. I was talking to my one of my friends the other day. They know that I do this Big Ten Huddle podcast now, and they are primarily an Ohio State basketball fan, but they started watching the rest of the Big Ten because they like to talk with me and hear my thoughts and stuff. And so they said that Rutgers was like their least favorite team to watch, and they just couldn't keep them on for very long because it's just like a very terrible offense. And yes, the defense is fun, but at the end of the day, like, people don't watch sports to see defense more often than not. But he turned on Rutgers these past few games when they were playing Michigan and a few other people like that. And he texted me and he said, "Who is this number 25 for Rutgers?" And I had to tell him, like, well, this is the guy who just came back. He was from Iowa State. I forgot about the Illinois thing, but I said he's from Iowa State, and he's basically the spark plug for their offense. And he was like, well, it's nice Steve Peichel found somebody to be alive on offense. So Rutgers looks like they're actually something decent. So it's a fun piece, and I have to agree that I like watching Rutgers more now that there is, as he puts it, somebody alive on offense.
It'd be nice if Rutgers can make a big run in the Big Ten tournament. That'd be awesome.
We were talking about them a couple episodes ago that if they got to like a 12-8 or like an 11-9 Big Ten record at the end of the season, couple losses, but they went on a run, could they make the NCAA tournament? I said it's possible if they did well in the Big Ten tournament, but other people said I was crazy. Obviously, that's probably not going to happen anymore. They lost their game to whoever it was last week, Minnesota.
Oh, you could be in the Big 12. You could be 7-11 and you get in. I mean,
right. And in the past, you could do that with the Big Ten, but it's just not as respected this year because, what do you have? Illinois, Purdue, Wisconsin, and Wisconsin's not even nearly as respected as they once were. So Corey brought up about Purdue earlier that they shot 100% from the free throw line in their game against Ohio State. Yeah, I remember that. Ohio State missed one free throw, and Purdue made every single one of their free throws. Zach Edey went 8 for 8. And not a single guy on their bench shot a free throw. I remember seeing that, which was funny. And then Dave, does Purdue get the Kansas City Patrick Mahomes treatment when it comes to officiating? If you mean the treatment that his offensive line gets, yes, because I don't know if anybody else saw those replays of the Kansas City offensive line after or during the Super Bowl, but they were hugging Nick Bosa a couple times and they weren't calling anything. So, yeah. And sometimes I think it's unintentional because at the end of the day, it is just so hard to guard Zach Edey or to officiate Zach Edey because it's almost like every single play there's a foul either on him or somebody else, and I don't envy them. So, all right, Dave, we'll get to your Gophers here. Ohio State plays Minnesota tomorrow night. Minnesota obviously has a chance to make some noise here at the end of the season, possibly go on a run. Their out-of-conference schedule is not doing them a whole lot of favors. However, if they win some of these games here at the end of the season, that could be really helpful for them. And Ohio State just comes off a big win over Purdue at home. So can Ohio State finally get a road win for the first time in over a year? Or will Minnesota take care of business? I tend to lean Minnesota's going to take care of business, but it is a fun game to kind of talk about with implications for both of these teams. Shaps, when you look at Ohio State playing Minnesota, do you agree Minnesota's got this one pretty well locked up? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, they might. They've been playing well. They've won 4 out of their last 6 games, I believe. And Ohio State coming down off that real emotional win. I'm still putting Diebler in for my coach of the year vote now that guard has fallen to pieces.
Yeah.
It is kind of funny, actually, too, how Minnesota is like the anti-Wisconsin right now, where Minnesota's going on a run and Wisconsin's doing the opposite, which really works out, too, for the reciprocity between Minnesota and Wisconsin. Are you guys aware of the reciprocity deal?
No. What's that?
So Minnesota and Wisconsin have a deal where if you live in either of those states, so if you live in Wisconsin and you go to Minnesota for school, you pay in-state tuition and vice versa.
Oh,
it's reciprocity. Yep.
Huh.
Nice.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah. So they're mirror images of each other.
Yeah.
At all times.
And always will be anti Wisconsin. Thank you, Dave.
Yeah, so it'd be
that's fun to think about.
Yeah, it would be funny if Ohio State went on a run for sure to close out the season, and Diebler, forces them to take off the interim tag. Might be hard to do because there's going to be a lot of probably better coaches available. But I'd love if Minnesota made a run to the NIT. I think they'd be a fun NIT team, and it would actually mean something to them as well, right. As opposed to a lot of other teams that kind of fall backwards into the NIT and they don't care about it. It would be a huge stepping stone, I think, for Minnesota, who was universally picked to finish dead last in the Big Ten. So right, yeah, some momentum for Minnesota and Ben Johnson to finish the year would be really positive, I think. Can we talk about the tampering as well?
Sure.
The Ohio State tampering. Yeah. What do you know, JR? What do you know?
So I originally started with the Aaron Craft portion of the podcast, and then I kind of did some digging after that. And a lot of it's Big Ten teams, from what I heard. A lot of it are Big Ten teams reaching out to his mom, and they're just kind of checking in, like, "Hey, how's Bruce Thornton doing?" It's tough to lose your coach. I mean, I've not been told quote for quote what they've said, but what I have been told is that college basketball head coaches are really bad actors. Yeah. I'm sure they're good recruiters and things like that, but like, it's like, hey, we
They're used car
care for
salesmen.
Bruce, right? Like, hey, we care for Bruce. We want to know how he's doing right now, and it's like, yeah, okay, sure. You also want to know if Bruce Thornton is going to come and be your starting point guard next year or not,
Yeah,
because
we're here for you.
yeah, it's like, and I kind of was giving Connor a little bit of stuff with it last night with the Caden Proctor thing, where it's like, Iowa tampering is like, hey, keep your head up. That was the text that they sent the Alabama offensive tackle that turned out to be tampering. And it's like, if you're nice about it, then maybe it's not tampering. But yeah, no, they're skirting these rules any way they can. I know Bruce Thornton is annoyed with it and doesn't want to deal with it. He's 19, 20 years old right now. And him and most of the other guys on the team, like, they still believe they can do something this season and make something happen. But,
I think that's why it's smarter that they fired him in season.
Right.
Because you have the players still in the building. You have the assistants there. Like, you can go on a little bit of a run. You can build some momentum. You can sell them on potentially staying. Whereas if you fire them the day after the season, those players are gone. Like, they're not in the building anymore. They're, you're never even going to get to talk to them, most likely. They're already in the portal. So I think it's much smarter to fire them in season than wait when like, we're going to fire them anyways. Probably be pretty smart move if you were Ward Manuel as well.
He said he's not even thinking about that, though.
Oh my God, he stinks.
Oh man, Michigan's got the Scott Frost of college basketball coaching there.
Ooh, yeah, yep. They do.
Good call.
Yeah, that is a good call. What I've also been told about the whole thing is that an underrated part that people don't realize, and something that Gene Smith was thinking of, and one of the reasons why Chris Holtmann kind of went away earlier on in the season, is because Jake Diebler was like the primary recruiter of the entire team, and he was almost kind of like the closer with some of the guys on the current team. Not that he always was, but like Felix Okpara, Bruce Thornton, guys like that, the younger kind of sophomores and freshmen, he kind of like assumed the closer role with a lot of them in recruiting. And so the thought is, from the Ohio State administration side, is like, if we let Jake Diebler do a good job, show that he's a good coach, like, maybe the next person we hire will then also keep him on staff, which will then possibly also keep, some of these players here as well. And also, like, another thing that people aren't thinking about, which Ohio State was thinking about, is this 30-day window that happens after your coach is fired. If you do it while classes are still in session, and I know this sounds scummy, and it kind of is, but welcome to college basketball. We had the FBI investigation on 10 different programs, so this is mild compared to that. But if you fire your coach while classes are still going on, you can't transfer right away. That was one of the biggest issues with Nick Saban retiring when he did, is like, that was literally when classes were just starting up, not really going on, and guys could literally make a decision on where they wanted to go within a week or two, and they would be totally fine at wherever they went to school. So this, 30-day window after somebody is fired is affecting when some of these coaches are getting fired as well. With all this
interesting
stuff.
Yeah, didn't know that. So yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, like, so if you've seen that, like, Michigan in football, again, I'm not trying to talk too much about football, but it just kind of makes sense if anybody pays attention to it. Like, one of the reasons why it was kind of good that Jim Harbaugh left when he did, instead of at the end of the season or at the beginning of the semester, is because players have a whole lot harder time transferring now. They can really only transfer to like schools that are on quarters if they want to actually enroll there. And it kind of like is the same thing happening now, but a lot of schools, their quarters are either up or just now ending. And so it'll be really, really tough for Ohio State players to transfer. And then also at in the middle of the season, guys' emotions are so high, they don't want to leave their teammates and have all that kind of stuff. So
got to remember that they're students first, Never forget that.
Student athletes. Jackson, you've seen the ins and outs of the Alabama being down south there and stuff like that. What are your thoughts on the coaches being let go or fired and guys having a 30-day window? You have any thoughts on that to transfer?
Where are you located first, Jackson?
Oh, I'm in Alabama, so I'm a Bama man, born and raised as one. But yeah, like the transfers, like if you feel like this team or that team is the best place to go, you stick with it. I mean, because do I hate it when some of these guys like leave my team? Of course, but I'm not gonna get upset about it because they got families to feed. They got to look out for not just themselves but those around them, and it's all about how you got to pay those bills. That's the way it works.
Yep, you can pay some big bills with NIL nowadays too. So
exactly. I saw where a guy was buying his mom a new house with his NIL money the other day.
Oh yeah, I saw that too.
The Florida guy is on
Florida.
It was on 3 on Twitter, I believe.
Yeah, at least he actually got his money. I heard other Florida players didn't get their money. I'm trying to
get it up front.
Exactly. I'm trying to figure out where I was here with Dave. Did you guys get that Barry Alvarez looks like John Belushi?
Oh, now you got me thinking about Animal House and Blue Brothers. Especially the one where Belushi's like doing the zit where he goes, see if you can guess what I am. I'm a zit. Get it?
Oh man. Yeah, so I didn't want to make this a full-on Ohio State segment, but I'm glad we got that stuff out of the way. But I think at the end of the day, no, that's okay. It's interesting information, and I need to be more willing to share what I have sometimes, because sometimes I don't know if I'm going to get somebody in trouble if I share something that I have. But that's just, it is what it is, I guess.
Getting in trouble is part of being an adult. I mean, that's why I remember that comedian Louis C.K. said, he's like, that's part of getting in trouble. Like, kids are always afraid of getting in trouble. When you're an adult, you're always in trouble with someone.
And when I say get in trouble, I mean, like, I won't get any more information if I overshare. Because somebody's going to get mad and say, why is this random podcaster divulging all of our secrets or whatever? But I probably know less than I think I actually do. So maybe that's a part of it. So hit on Minnesota really quick and then we'll get out of here. But Minnesota, I think that they should take care of Ohio State. Ben Johnson has been really good this season. As far as the NIT goes, we were talking about that a little bit earlier. I think that making the NIT and going on an NIT run would be really, really cool for Minnesota, not because like that's their end goal and that's what they would be happy with above all else, but it would show the growth of the program and kind of give that affirmation that like Ben Johnson is building something. They're going to lose a few players after this year. Parker Fox has something with his eighth year. Kent said that he's gone because that's what Parker told him, but I know some people were saying in the comments that he might not leave. He doesn't have to. So I don't know exactly what's going on with that. I can't keep track of all these COVID years and stuff like that. But I know that a couple of other guys are in the starting lineup are older, but they have Farrell Payne, they have Cam Christie, some of these younger guys that are going to be good for them. So if they can manage to bring those guys back and Ben Johnson can have another good year, that'll be important for them.
2024, 2025 will be the last year where you have a free year because of COVID from 2020.
Yes, as long as you don't have one of these medical redshirt situations, because that's how some of these guys are like going even deeper into it, like their 8th or 9th year is because they were granted like 2 or 3 medical redshirts instead of just the normal one, which is really weird to me, but that's how it goes. So yeah, that's all I got. Shaps, you got anything more on this Minnesota Ohio State game?
No.
Yeah. Jackson, you got anything else on the Minnesota Ohio State game before we get out of here?
My advice to the Buckeyes is don't throw the cart in before the horse. I know you got that big win over Purdue, but do not let yourselves get hung over against the Golden Gophers.
Yep. Gophers will take you out.
They'll chew you up like a chicken nugget.
Yeah. Shaps, why don't you tell people where they can find you at before we get out of here?
Yep, you can find us at the Javamen Fighting Illini podcast, where we've got a rotating crew of hosts, and we will continue to debate if Brad Underwood is a good coach or not. Follow us on Twitter, Illini_Javamen. We like to have some fun on there as well.
Always enjoy interacting with you guys on Twitter. It's a good time. Jackson, where can they find you and the Jacksonian and all of your sports and future anime and all that stuff?
and all kinds of future episodes in the works. I'm excited about it. 2024 is a big year, and I'm 201 subs away from getting to 500 right here on YouTube on Jackson Johnson 979, and I'm getting closer to 2,000 right here on Twitter at Jackson 0996 0335. And you can also find me on Instagram and Threads, where I also just kind of run my mouth about what's going on, and I just give these little announcements here and there on Jackson Johnson 543-908. And I got this little Rumble link in the private chat of the Jacksonian, where one of these days I'll be having some Jacksonian episodes so crazy that it's too crazy even for YouTube.
That's what Rumble's for, but it's too crazy for YouTube.
There you go. That's the
Thanks
way
for coming on,
Jack.
Thanks for coming on, Jackson, and sharing your Southern pride here with the Big Ten. We appreciate it.
I did my best. Thank you for having me on. It's an honor being on tonight's edition of the Big Ten Huddle.
You're welcome, man. Thanks for coming on, Shap. Appreciate you, man. Everybody have a good night. Thanks for watching.
See ya.
Sleep well and stay warm.